Hello, thank you for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi. It's Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. This is the time for me to stage Sashiko while talking about Sashiko. And this is not a lecture, this is not a webinar, this is not a tutorial. So I will not answer the technical questions on how to do it, but I would like to answer some questions about Sashiko culture, Sashiko stories. That being said, I don't have any announcement to. We are planning the Sashiko Japan Tour, and there's a website. I made a website for that, so if you like to check that out, please check the description area. That's pretty much one announcement right now, so I will just jump to the Sashiko stitching while talking about some Sashiko stories. Today's main theme is actually, this might be the announcement. On the Instagram, yesterday I made a first post and I made a second post today, introducing some of the Sashiko rising artisans that I have met. It is my fortune to meet them, to have them, and their work can kind of prove that my teaching can be quite... Sashiko is not that difficult. My point is Sashiko is not that difficult. Anybody can do that. I just wanted to kind of provide that it's not in the past. Sashiko is not in the past. It is an ongoing process, and we are about to surprise the world in Sashiko, and we will talk about that little by little. It's a long story, long series of stories, so I will share that on Instagram, and I will talk about that on the live streaming here and now. I mean, here and there. All right, I will move to the camera. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming back. I think it's a new name. Just a second. Let me... Whew. Oh, yeah. Hey. So... Wait, I didn't check my camera. Just not a camera. I didn't check my audio. Let me check. I think it's on, but... Yep, it is on. I often use the expression when I explain how Sashiko is like in the US, and it is called, I often use the pretty famous phrasing from Japanese saying that it's kotoba no hitoriaruki, which means that the word itself has its own function, its own movement by itself. And I worried about that a few years ago, that Sashiko might be becoming something completely different. And I was right, unfortunately, and Sashiko has become something completely different right now. So it is very fast to follow up on that. Hello, thank you so much for coming. It is sad, it is quite sad, but at the same time, I don't know what I can do on that. It is one of the Japanese word, it got so different from what it is. Kombucha is one of the thing, and futon is one of the thing. We have completely different meaning in Japanese, although that word itself is quite popular or famous in English. I still feel very weird when I hear the word kombucha. It has become completely different thing in the US. And once I get it, it's okay. Like, it's more like the product name. It's not really what it is, it's the product name. So I understand what it is, but at the same time, that's not the same meaning in Japan. And the problem is that, especially in Sashiko, those people who think what Sashiko is are not really trying to look at what Sashiko really is outside of their value. I hope that they know what they know that Sashiko is from Japan, but some of them probably don't care about that too. And it is very unfortunate that it is happening everywhere. So, well, my domestic course is I made that domestic course to kind of offer the different perspective from the Sashiko, which is introduced in English right now. They're not wrong. As I keep saying, the Sashiko introduced in English is not wrong. It's just not enough. And that is quite sad. I don't know what I can do. I keep coming back to the same question over and over again. What can I do to advocate? Probably advocate is the word for that. Advocate. I don't know if that's the good word for that. Hello. Thank you so much for coming. But at the same time, it is kind of, there's nothing we can do to go against the trend. They will learn what they want to learn. So the reason I keep saying that is the Japanese are joining that too. Those who do not really care about the deep cultural stories, they can ride on this trend and make money. There's nothing wrong. Again, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just, it is the trend, and it is sad. They sell the fabric called boro, patchwork, printed fabric, and that makes me feel very, very how can I say? I don't want to say shady, but eerily. I don't know if this is English, but kind of shaking. It's not despair. It's more like listening the sound of scratching the glass or like blackboard. It gives me a chill. Like borrow patchwork pattern printed fabric, and they make shirt out of it and then call it borrow without questioning what borrow is. So that happens because borrow has become the trend, and Sashiko is probably Sashiko is following the same way. We may say it makes you feel icky. Icky? It's cringy. Those are the English words that I will never learn if I didn't move to the US. So, icky, I think it's icky and cringy. The borrow printed fabric makes you feel icky, yeah. It makes me feel that icky. In my workshop, I often say that I kind of describe what Sashiko is. And usually, Sashiko, I really define broadly. Like, there's no wrong Sashiko. So many people ask me, well, what is not Sashiko then? And then answer is that. If it's printed, I don't call that Sashiko or borrow. So this is some of the fabric. I prepared this pattern on the vintage fabric. this fabric itself is not just vintage fabric with the pattern on, right? So this is just the fabric, vintage fabric that I found, and then I prepare the patterns on. So this is the pattern, this is the fabric, cotton fabric, nice cotton fabric with the patterns on. After I do stitching, this will be the Sashiko stitched fabric. The process itself is called Sashiko. And also the product, the end product can be, end item can be called Sashiko, but at the same time, it happens, it begins with actual stitching. So this one people may find it like borrow. I patchworked many pieces together to make one bigger piece. At this moment though, this is not borrow. It's just patched vintage fabric that I was about to throw away. I decided to patch it. And this stitching can be called Sashiko, but at the same time, this itself is not still yet borrow. In order to make it borrow, I have to use it, and then by using it, it will have a hole. It might, there's already a hole, so I kind of will patch it over it. So that repetition will make this fabric as borrow. So patchwork itself is not gonna make one piece as borrow, yet many people misunderstand that's the borrow. One very important concept of borrow is to be used or being used. If I don't use it, that's kind of not the borrow already, although it might look very like borrow. So they are not wrong. Patchworked fabric can be borrow in the future, but that's not borrow itself. And not many people are talking about that. And because they see those Sashiko pieces or borrow pieces in the photos or from the antique market or sometimes museum, they think that it's kind of like a past. It happened. Some people even say that we cannot make authentic Sashiko, authentic borrow. I don't know how to define authentic, but then I don't understand what I'm doing and what we are doing. So, as our Sashiko is not that popular or well known, unfortunately, our Sashiko is not a mainstream, I guess. So, many people misunderstand that Sashiko is a culture from very past or ancient. Some people say ancient. The origin is that many years ago. At the same time, it is still ongoing process, and you are here, and you watching this live streaming are part of today's Sashiko stitching. And the biggest part of the Sashiko we practice is that we can make that item. The authentic Sashiko, if we define that. And that's not gonna be kind of, if I were the only one, if Keiko, my mother, was the only one who can make those, then that is not really explaining my messages, because I define Sashiko as the ordinary stitching that anybody can do it. Now many people are proving that they can do it. So those posts on the Instagram about some of the friends I met, I will continue that. I have so many, more than 10, more than 20 of those people who I would like to introduce, and more than that. I mean, I said 20, but that's probably figure of speech. I will probably stop around 5 or 6, but there's so many more of those who are very good at, it's not even good at, they are doing the Sashiko I learned 30 years ago, or even 40 years ago. I don't know. I don't remember I don't remember 40 years ago, but so it is very unfortunate to be lost. I don't think it's going to be lost at this moment. Although I said that our Sashiko is not a mainstream, it is a small stream. Um, but we have enough people to be somewhat significant in this trend. So now my mission, my work, my job is to be a bridge between those who can do it and to the trend. Also, may be a bridge between those who are helping Sashiko culture by offering the supplies and tools, which who they are kind of small already at this moment. But I will see what I can do to sort of support them, encourage them to keep going. Yeah, I have a lot of. I think if I had a choice, I would probably prefer just stitching and making things. That's what I was doing until 2028, I guess. And until very, very recently, I was doing that. In fact, no, I'm sorry. 2019 was one of the busiest year that I had. I put quite many workshops throughout the year. That's the year that I started making the online Sashiko class, which was quite difficult for me back then. So 2029, I put so much stuff that I kind of stopped stitching, and then I lost my balance. So now I try to not to have the workshop more than necessary. Not more than necessary, but I do not really promote that I need the workshop or I want to do the workshop. I appreciate those who respect what I offer, so I'm not really rejecting any of the workshop. At the same time, I'm trying to balance it, but yet this year it's already getting a little bit more work. Sorry, I touched my ointment, so my hands are very slippery. So it's getting a little busy this year, and I gotta balance. Well, I think over the summer, I think I will have a little more time. After August, I do not plan to add any workshop, as I will be planning Sashiko Japan Tour, like very not aggressively, actively, and I hope I will have a lot of time to stitch. Oh, oh. I do also want to just stitch things, and that's kind of the dream and balance that I have. We have to make living at some point, so if you can make living, if you can make ends meet by doing something else completely, that's my recommendation. Like making a hobby as the business way to make living is quite difficult. It's the balance again too. If you are not sure what I'm talking about today, like the Sashiko has become something different completely. Um, I kind of find Facebook as an interesting place to look at that. There's one group called Sashiko, and I admire and respect other men who created that group like 10 years, 10 years ago or something, like long before Sashiko became this famous, and she has been accepting many people as the platform or gateway to enjoy Sashiko, and I respect that. At the same time, it's because that gateway is open to anybody, and we don't want to define what Sashiko is. You can find many interpretation of Sashiko there. I made another group called Japanese Sashiko, and that has a very, very strict restriction to focus on the Sashiko practiced in Japan. Because of that restriction, the photos are not that many, but you can probably see the kind of contrast how Sashiko is practiced right now in Japan and how it has become something different in outside of Japan. It doesn't have to be in English. I just don't read other languages, and I am not a big fan of translation because it can cause some. I'm not a big fan of machine translation because it can cause some misunderstandings. I'm really not trusting what they translated. So I don't know about that in outside of English neither, but it's not that far from what I am explaining. On Instagram today, you posted that you would like Reiko to be better known. How would her or other artisans becoming famous in English speaking? How would her becoming famous in English speaking would be balanced with Minge? I think one thing that I have to define what Minge is. Minge is defined as the art without heroes, right? Art without heroes. And Sashiko can be part of Minge. At the same time, Sashiko is not equal to the Minge. And I have okay, those people who I introduce on the Instagrams are those who do not mind being known. In other words, those are the people I keep encouraging to be somewhat the surface of the internet. So I have a permission. I have a permission to introduce them. At the same time, I have probably triple amount of the people who I have not convinced yet, succeeded convincing yet. So, for example, the jacket we lended to the Williams Morris Gallery as the part of the Minge is art without the heroes because we don't share who made it. We have 16 artisans inside of that jacket. We don't list the name. We have the name, but we don't share the name because some of them are not, willing to be on that list. We can, but we don't. So that concept itself was very resonating. Also, that can be the art with respecting or following the philosophy of Minge. So we could join that Minge exhibition. At the same time, some of the jacket Keiko makes is not really Minge. I think it's more like the art. So is what Reiko makes. And what I make or Nana makes are more like the traditional classic Sashiko. We don't really focus on the result much. So it's not even Minge. Minge is for the for the local community. That was for the Minge. Sashiko's principle is little more personal. The unit is smaller. Minge's unit is more like the industry or community, local community. Sashiko's unit is family or relatives. So there's a lot of categories in Sashiko, and the Minge does not equal to the Sashiko. Minge is a lot bigger than Sashiko, and Sashiko is a lot bigger than Minge too, for that matter. So it is somewhat overlapping, but it's kind of a different entity. So what I introduced as the Instagram post today with Reiko-san, I don't consider that her Sashiko as the Minge much. It's more like the art. And I do not I personally do not I prefer not to be called artist or my work is art because I don't consider myself artist or what I do is the art. But it doesn't mean that Sashiko is not the art for everybody. And I think Sashiko can be the art. And Reiko-san and my mom, probably, my mother Keiko is one of them too. They can be the artist. So not all Sashiko fits under the Minge umbrella. No. Very, very, very few. Even the the Minge has a lot of categories, like many categories. And Sashiko is very, very, very small. Extremely small, like probably 1%. So if you buy the Minge kind of art book, Sashiko is quite. You are lucky if you can find the page describing Sashiko. That's how small. So the book is going to be published from the William Morris Gallery toward the end of this month, I believe. And if Sashiko is a very big part of Minge, I think the Sashiko pieces should be on the cover. Sashiko is not really the Minge. Minge is, in order to understand Sashiko, understanding Minge is quite important. At the same time, understanding of Minge is not going to define what Sashiko is. Ooh, I hope it makes sense. So umbrella-wise, Sashiko has different umbrella, and we can share some of the things, but it's quite different. I hope it makes sense. It's really difficult. Minge itself is quite difficult to explain. No. So right there there's a lot of Minge, but even still, not all Sashiko is Minge. No. That's something I can say for sure. Like I can confirm. I can be quite confident say that not all Sashiko is Minge. So one of the person who was the part of the Minge movement was a big fan of Sashiko. As the result, Sashiko was kind of popular in the Minge movement. Her name is Masako Shirasu Masako-san. But it does not mean that Sashiko's practice itself is exactly the Minge. No. So if you go to the Minge Museum in Tokyo, you probably won't find much Sashiko either. I have not been there for the last 12 years, 13 years, for 15 years probably. No. Last time I was there, they weren't. We say all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs. Ooh, that's really good way to say that. So I thought all Sashiko was Minge, but not all Minge was Sashiko. No. It's like two different circle kind of meeting in the center. So they overlap. The jacket they are sorry for the hitting. The jacket they are exhibiting right now can be categorized as Minge with very, very specific 8 definitions that Minge is defined. I think that jacket can be under the umbrella of those 8 definitions. I think. Yeah, I believe so. But not all of that. Venn diagram. There we go. That's it. Overlapping circle. Venn diagram. Sorry for the missing the comments. Good afternoon from Sydney. I have a few fine woolen jumpers with holes, and I'm wondering if you can apply Sashiko to patch mend them. Why not? I probably wouldn't because I don't like stitching on the wool or something soft. Probably doesn't have to be Sashiko, but if your question is can or not, you can. I might not though. Yeah, the Minge, I'm very much looking forward to read that book that Williams Morris Gallery will publish. I hope that they will explain what Minge is. There are quite many books written about Minge and published about Minge already, but it's quite old. It's like a translation of the founder of Minge movement, which is great, but at the same time, it's quite outdated because it's like 150 years ago, right? His writing is 150 years ago. And many people try to interpret and explain what Minge is after that, but at the same time, this might be the first one I know in very recent years that they try to redefine or reinterpret what Minge is. And the interpretation of art without heroes are very good interpretation of Sashiko. So, have you visited the Minge Museum in San Diego? I did not know that there was the museum in San Diego, the Minge Museum. No, I have not. In fact, I have never been to San Diego too. I wish I can. It's a little far. But they might have Sashiko, they might not have Sashiko. I don't know. I assume Minge was a philosophy related to the artisans not seeking to stand out, become superstars. I'm sorry. I assumed Minge was a philosophy related to artisans not seeking to stand out, become superstars. So I thought that might be part of your issues with Sashiko in English, the non-Japanese expert. Maybe yes, maybe no. Minge is actually the movement by those who had choice. Kind of rich people, people with power, people with privilege, people found out Minge, well, decided to call it Minge. So actual artisans was not really part of the movement. Minge was created by those who had educations, who had money, who had connections to make that movement happen. And that became the philosophy because that's how they defined it. So the biggest difference is right now is that because of the internet, because of these live streamings, the artisans who were supposed to be nameless can speak up, like me. I'm not, in order to fully follow the philosophy of Minge, I shouldn't be speaking up. I shouldn't be introducing somebody. So the artists outside of Japan calling themselves, Sashiko artists calling themselves expert, and I are completely different entity. It's not even, I shouldn't even feel sad about it because it's a completely different thing. So, but my point is that because of the internet, again, because of the internet, they can become whatever they want to be without proper credentials, proper checking, and it can overpaint what Sashiko is, what culture is like. As the result, I am speaking up. So if there were no internet, I probably wouldn't, like, I have not published the book yet because I have a specific reason that specific worries that what book can do. So I hope I'm making myself somewhat clear. I know it's not clear, but Mingei has become the philosophy, but that was more like the movement to let's collect collect beauty. So Tanaka Chuzabo, Mr. Tanaka Chuzabo is the person who collected all the boroughs. And back then, he doesn't stitch, right? He doesn't stitch. So it's very, that is why many people consider me as the maverick, because I happen to have the somewhat okay ability to speak like this, speak up like that. I happen to speak English as the biggest language in the world. But most importantly, I stitch. If I don't stitch, I will lose all of my word, because I am not the researcher, I am not the translator, I'm not an interpreter. I am not here to discuss something. I love discussion, but sometimes people may misunderstand me as the kind of activist or something like that. I am just the person who stitch, who happened to feel the responsibility to speak up. The internet is quite scary. I think that the internet kind of destroyed my family business once, but now, interestingly, internet is helping me to speak up. So it is multicultural. Sorry for the late reply to the comment. It is multicultural using the word Mingei. It includes Mexican, Japanese, and other culture. Yes, so Mingei has become the philosophy, as Susan said, right? So Mingei is very, very good philosophy, and we have tons of things to learn from it. That's why I keep saying that Mingei might be the next movement, next famous. It might be the next kind of meme, not a meme. I'm sorry, like a fancy word to explain the beauty in, like kind of exotic, unknown, unique philosophy. But because it has been a long time since Mingei was sort of created, many Japanese try to brought it up from Japan, and it is already mixed with other culture too. It's not only Japanese culture, as Nick said. It can be Mexican. You said it can be Mexican, and also probably Native American too, if they can. They don't, of course, they don't have to, but the Mingei, it's really, I don't like this translation, but Mingei can be translated as the folk art, like folklore, folk art, and folk art exists everywhere, right? So it's kind of when we define Mingei as the folk art, that can be applied to many, many things. So when we make Mingei Art Museum, any folk art can join that. So technically speaking, all the stitching culture from everywhere can be cut under the Mingei and can be displayed there too. So it's a little scary. I usually do not talk about Mingei in Japanese, because there are quite many experts. Like, they are really the expert. They spend like academic there to study what Mingei is. So I'm not gonna. I wrote the article about Mingei once, and I defined, say, 8 categories, but I cannot probably list 8 of those right now because I did not memorize it. I can come back with that next time, but Really grateful you speaking up and teaching. Thank you. Well, thank you for finding me. I still have, they're a quite strong trend of doing whatever, so, you know, it's not easy. It's not. Well, but I don't have choice. I really don't have a choice. Do I? I don't, because it's my home. It's my identity. When somebody is trying to change my name, I probably will do my best not to do that happen. My name is my name, right? So, let's all market ourselves as a Ming expert and then get rich. The next ikigai, I hate the word ikigai too. I mean, I don't hate the word ikigai itself, but I don't know. I don't really like the interpretation of ikigai. Like, Sashiko is not my ikigai. Please don't, like, some people say that, oh, you have Sashiko as ikigai. No, no. Ikigai is not reason to live. Some people translate it as the reason to live. It can. It can. It can. I repeat it 3 times. It can mean that it is the reason to live. That's simplification, though. It can be something else too. Do you want me to get into that difficult discussion? I might have to stop stitching. I can say one more thing. So, ikigai is really ikigai is ikigai. So there's one big condition that we had a culture. The Japanese had a culture to. Just don't get me wrong, but don't twist it wrong. In rural area, in the mountainside of Japan, we had a culture of dumping elderly people in the mountain. We have that word, ubazuteyama. So you kind of bring your elderly mom or relatives to the mountain and live there because they're too old to take care of. And they eat. So, but they have to feed their kids. So somebody gotta do something. So getting old in Japan is respected as well as can be troublesome. So, and after that, we got into the society where we have the lifelong employment, right? Lifelong employment meant that they start working in the 22 and then retire at the age of 65. So those years, they have a purpose, they have a reason, they have they have things to do. And after 65 years old, after retirement, many people start having the issue of being empty and losing the sense of living. So those two stories of kind of not a respect, like elderly being sort of being in trouble, as well as those like a emptiness after the lifetime employment, they needed something to live for. And then that's what we call as ikigai. So we don't use ikigai to the person like my age. Some people might say that, but it can be disrespectful to somebody if I say that, wow, that's your ikigai, because you don't know that much. You don't know the whole story about it. So it is a good word, and yes, that ikigai can extend the life of their their life, but it's not only that. May I ask you about the opinion of the Sashiko style tattoo? I've seen a few. It seems symbolic to some stitch oneself together stronger. Um, I don't have any problem with the Sashiko style tattoo. I mean, if they claim it, that's the Sashiko, then that might be the problem. Like Sashiko is not a tattoo, right? There's no equation of Sashiko is equal to tattoo. And as long as they don't make it equal, I have no problem with that. I think there's a tattoo group in Canada named Sashiko. It was quite difficult to compete with them in terms of SEO in 2020, 2017. When I started doing Sashiko website, every time I used the Google, that tattoo artist group came up before my website. So, and I don't have because they know what Sashiko is and they know that it's not Sashiko. It's more like the word. So I don't have any problem. So for that matter, I don't have any problem with others using the Sashiko as their marketing tools. The only category that I have a problem with is those who think they know everything about Sashiko and teaching Sashiko as is. What they teach is the whole picture. Like if they're teaching, oh, my teaching is one stop for all, so come to my workshop, then I have a problem with that. Because that's never going to happen. There's no such a thing as one stop for all. I'm not doing the one stop for all. So Ikigai had became a pretty trendy word, and I was there. We had a movie for that. It was on Netflix too, and it is a great thing. At the same time, we did not dig into that much. We just simply follow the impression that Ikigai is a positive word, and that was the end of the story. That's the end of the story, and we didn't have opportunity to look further, and that is okay, I think, in my opinion, because I don't think many people make a living out of Ikigai. Like some might be teaching how to do Ikigai, I don't know if they might be teaching how to find Ikigai and stuff like that. But Ikigai is not a practice itself. It's more like a philosophy mindset. Sashiko is the practice. What we do is the practice. As the result, spreading the superficial information and then changing that practice itself can be very disrespectful for those who actually practice right now, as well as who practice quite throughout their life too. These mainstream appropriation of Japanese culture seems to completely erase the joy struggle of working people. What we do to make our lives more beautiful, what we do to survive. Yeah, because of what Nix wrote right now, I say that there is no such a thing as cultural appropriation in Sashiko. I don't want to worry about it too much. I mean, as much as I do respect the cultural appropriation issue, I don't mind people calling their stitching Sashiko. And I don't even care if I don't think they should use the inspired as well, because inspire requires some understanding of what it is. So they can call it Sashiko stitching as long as under one condition, that they know Sashiko is more than that. They don't have to learn that, they don't have to be mastered at, but as long as they know that there are something behind or beyond that. So as Nick said, that they are using the word which may have the joy struggles beyond that, then we can probably preserve that. We don't have to know it. We don't have to make it. We don't have to explain that. We just acknowledge. I keep coming back to the word acknowledgement, but we acknowledge it. I don't even know the whole picture. But unfortunately, in today's Sashiko in English, in other languages too, in order to make sales, in order to be popular, in order to get followers, they make a strategy of offering what they want to hear. What they want to hear, what the majority of the people want to hear is the answer and correctness. What is the right, what is the rules, what is the right stitches, how to do it, what is the rightness. They want to be right. And those who can offer the right Sashiko gets the more, customers. And because they know that, no, because they think they learned the right Sashiko, they start teaching their right Sashiko with very full confidence that there's nothing beyond that. So it's really unfortunate chain of it's really unfortunate chain of misunderstanding created by somebody misleading it. The initial person is doing it on purpose, intentionally, and others might be doing it unintentionally, but they are kind of supporting the original misleading by just following it. You could market your Sashiko workshop as wellness retreat that teach Sashiko as the path to Ikigai. Susan, you know me so well. I don't wanna probably bring it to the Ikigai part, but I got an offer. Like I have been receiving the offer for a long time that they want to use Sashiko as the retreat. So what I teach is quite intense. It's either 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Either way, it's quite intense. So some people kind of not ask, but wish that the workshop, those 3 days would be 5 days or longer than that. And I kept thinking like, I don't have the contents. Like in 3 days, I pretty much share all the contents, including actual practice. So I kept saying like, well, I don't have that much contents for doing 5 days. And then one person, like the organizer, said that, like, think about it as a retreat. So she listened to my live streaming a lot, and then yeah, like what I do as very ordinarily, maybe like including some spiritual thing, it may be helpful for some people. So can I consider kind of mixing those two? And then I said I will try my best, and it may happen. So yeah, it's gonna be like a week-long, 5 days retreat. The goal is to learn Sashiko. The goal is to apply Sashiko to the ordinary. At the same time, I will involve some of the practice I do or we did in our family. It can be quite spiritual, which can be quite, I don't want to say shady, but it can be shady, maybe. I don't want to make cult. I will make it so crystal clear about this. I do not want to make a cult. It's not gonna. It's really not my intention or my interest. But it may sound like it. So there's a big line between that. Because it's spiritual, because it's unique, because it's kind of outside of the value, it may look like it, but it's normal for Japanese people, yet it may be a little bit too much for the non-Japanese people. But it will help. All the Japanese kid in school learn how to clean. They scrub the floor with kneeing down, like Cinderella. That's pretty, my daughter goes to the US school, and She does not know. She thinks like even my wife thinks that I when I clean the floor, I knee down, right? I put the knee pad because I'm a little older, and then I use the clothes that I make with the Sashiko stitching, and then I scrub it. It's faster. It makes more cleaner than using the rod or like sweeper. I feel much. It's faster and cleaner, and they don't like it. My daughter probably doesn't care, but my wife doesn't like it. So, but that's how I learned. That's some of the things that it's very very important. By the way, without doing that cleaning part kneeling down, one cannot understand what Zen is. So Zen start with that kind of cleaning. So those who kind of connect Sashiko with the Zen, they have to know that cleaning itself is the key. Do they clean before they stitch? I don't know. But without that, Zen is not gonna be there. Sorry, Nick. Happier question. What is your favorite things you've stitched for someone? That's a very good question. And probably any stitching that I do for my daughter or my wife is something I feel good about, I guess. Yeah. My daughter asked me to do one bag and then she enjoyed that. We have photo with that. And I think that's what sorry, I don't really think much, so when I stitch, I really don't think. Helen, then I think the only clothes they can bring to the retreat are ones that they need to be prepared. No, well, sure, no. That's see, that's the start of cult, right? You can only bring one shirt and one denim. We have to keep using that. Let's bring us to the age that we don't have any choice, and then we can finally understand what Sashiko is. While we use the flight together. Anyway, that's a little too much. So we don't have to follow what Sashiko is to understand what Sashiko. Because we have a choice. Because we have choice, we need to appreciate and we need to respect how it was. But we don't. It does not. Being in their condition is not the requirement. Helen and Susan, well, I know you both for a long time, and I know you are joking, but you see, because of that kind of conversation in the chat, don't delete it. I love it. It can go to the quite shady way. I mean, for those who came here first, they know me, so that's what they're writing. I feel like cleaning that way is more thorough. Yes, more thorough. Like, if you find the heavy dirt, I can scrub it. Like, I can spray more. I use spray that I use. I love those like cleaning spray, and I can show you the wiping cloth. I don't have it right now because I cleaned. I don't have it right now here, but I can show it next time. So many wonderful sorry, I cannot. So many wonderful Buddhist stories about becoming enlightenment by cleaning. Yeah, cleaning is quite cleaning with using your own bare hand is doesn't have to be bare hand, I guess, or your own body. That is quite important. Well, without that, I think it's. And if I'm gonna nail my not a nail, if I'm going to name my retreat as Zen Sashiko retreat, then Helen is right. We really have to start the day of retreat with kneeling down on the floor and scrubbing the floor. Ideally, someone's house or somebody. No, that's a little too much. That is a little too much. Okay, I will stop stitching after this much thread. If you have any questions, if you have any topic, actually not. I will end it here. I have to change the thread, so I will end it here. Yeah, there's so many words, and some cultures, some Japanese words are already completely misunderstood, like wabi-sabi and kintsugi. Those are two words that went beyond. Well, Sashiko may be part of that already too, but wabi-sabi and kintsugi, I don't know if there are people who are speaking up about the sort of insufficiency of those translation. I don't know if there are any kintsugi artist practitioner who is speaking up like I do. So well, kintsugi will many who does practice the way Sashiko. Well, I do practice. Um, Thankfully, there are more Sashiko stitches who can appreciate the process itself. So it won't. It will probably be preserved somewhat, but this trend of capitalism and popularism is quite, or probably instant gratification. They don't want to, like, we don't want to go through pain. We don't want to go through suffering. So if there is any way to ease that pain or suffering, we take the easier route, like painkiller and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with doing the painkiller, but it's not the fundamental way to learn that. If you have a pain, yes, painkiller can save us for temporarily, but if it's going to continue all the time, we may want to look into what's going on with our body. Painkiller is not the solution for everything. Yet Sashiko conclude with just the painkiller saying that that's the beautiful thing. Nope. Painkiller is great, but it's, if you have a tumor in brain, of course painkiller might help you to feel less pain, but you gotta do something else if the goal is to live healthier. Okay, let me just come back. I will read the comments and answer the questions. There will be 1 hour 30 minutes YouTube video breaking down how Westerners have been using wabi-sabi wrong eventually. That is awesome. I will check that out. If you know the link, please let me know. Look, wabi-sabi is quite famous word, so I believe that there are people who are explaining that. I can do that too, but I may be wrong too. So yes, please, There's nothing ongoing on the screen right now. Like right now, I have my face, but there's nothing usually going on over the camera screen. So you'll see me stitching, but it's it doesn't change much. So if you can bring something to stitch with, that's my intention to have this live streaming, the time to stitch together. Susan, we don't want pain. That's why we clean our floors with mops instead of on our hands and knees. Yes, yes, very, very true. That's why we have the vacuum, we have the Roomba, we have everything. And that's we call the innovations. And that's what human beings are. Human beings are. And that's good, but that's that's not the whole picture of humanity. Roomba is not the master of cleaning. Roomba is great. Don't get me wrong. We have one Roomba upstairs, and without that, it can be chaotic. But Roomba cannot scrub off some of the dirt. They can vacuum, but have to knee down. Not have to. I choose to knee down when I clean the floor. Tsuchiko-san, as a potter in the US, I see fake kintsugi workshop recent years. I often post what I think of it, and I get many thank message. Yes, I forgot about. Yes, please follow her. um, why didn't I think of it? Yes, we have the person who speaks up about the kintsugi. She is the potter. Yes, please. She's the potter, and she knows. She is way more qualified to talk about kintsugi. So we probably like it can be just like a audio session, but I would like to hear what you think about kintsugi or recent things. I mean, I'm speaking out of my brain, so there's no plans, but it might be a good idea to hear other Japanese people concerning um, this transition. I do kintsugi myself to repair with real urushi and real gold, not epoxy and fake gold colored powder, but that's that. I think it is okay to use the epoxy and kind of gold colored pigment, but it is okay to do that. But if the whole world start understanding that kintsugi is the process to fix it, whatever they have with whatever they have, let's glue it. Let's glue it. Let's put any color on that. Well, that's kintsugi's whole picture. That's too much simplification, and that's what I'm fighting in Sashiko too. They don't have to use. Well, I hope they use the real things. At the same time, if they don't have a choice, they can acknowledge the original stories or respect those. Not even respect. Acknowledge those who follow the original way, and then they can apply it. But it's okay for repairing the planter, but it is for food vessel. Epoxy isn't food safe. See, so that's the case, without knowing what's going on, without knowing the stories behind it. It can be a harm rather than the fixing or doing good. That's the very big reason that I keep saying the thread matters and needles matters. I specifically recommend the thread and needles I use, because by using the kind of wrong thread and the needle, they could do the opposite of making the fabric stronger. They can damage the fabric by using the inappropriate thread and needle. It looks good from outside because if the goal is to make patchworks, if they don't plan to use that, then any thread, any needle will be fine. However, if the goal is to make the fabric stronger for the 10 years, 20 years of usage, then they gotta use the thread, they gotta use the needles to make that happen, to make it safer to do that. So there are stories behind it, and without understanding, without even acknowledging the stories, the culture itself can go very wrong way. So Susan, you're so funny. People love gold line on the plates and bowls without knowing anything. Yeah, we're in the same shed, yo. So let's do something. I would like to hear your voice too. The thread so matters. I stumbled upon your work only a week ago and I've been using the embroidery thread. It's not the same. Waiting for payday to order. Thank you, appreciate that. The frost has been broken already trying to repair my boyfriend's shirt. So yeah, it's you you don't want to use the beef broth or chicken broth when you make miso soup. It becomes something else. Miso soup, there's no wrong. There's nothing wrong with using the chicken broth or like Western style broth to make miso soup. It might taste better. It might not better. It might taste good. But traditionally speaking, we use dashi the way we make dashi in Japanese way, like seaweed, fish, bonitos, dried bonitos. So there are a lot of more stories, and unfortunately, I can only speak about Sashiko though. I cannot speak about anything else. Not Kintsugi for sure. But unfortunately, Sashiko introduced in English is quite badly simplified, and I will keep speaking up, and then one day I hope that people will start realizing something's wrong. All right, I really appreciate you coming to the live streaming. I will be I cannot come back next Thursday, I guess. I will be having I will be in the Vermont next week. Huh? Yes, Thursday night. I may be able to do the live streaming when the internet is strong enough. I usually stay in the hotel when I do the workshop, but I will be staying on campus somewhere. So if the campus has a good internet for the guest, then I may be able to do the live streaming. If not, I will make an announcement that I can't. But the workshop is on Friday, so I will just drive on Thursday, so maybe possible. The Japanese live streaming next week is not gonna happen. Yep. After that, I will have 2 months of no workshop. May 2 months and more actually. That's good. Then I can do regular live streaming more periodically, more regularly. Okay, I hope you have a good night and thank you so much for coming, and then keep stitching. The more you stitch, the better we can understand each other. Okay, just let me check how I can finish that. I still have not replaced the computer. So probably you did not get a live ad today. I have no idea how to control it.